Hello.
Well, welcome, everybody. Hello, Melissa. My name is Vicki Dill, and I'm a proud volunteer for the Instructional Design and Learning SIG. And we are super excited because we're going to hear about Word. We're going to figure out how to get Word to show some love to us. And our Sherpa up this Word mountain is going to be Mellissa Ruryk. I know that you guys have been able to read her bio in the Eventbrite, but I want to go ahead and just refresh your memory. And I love how dramatically Melissa has phrased this. Equipped with a bachelor's degree in secondary education from UBC. I'm assuming that's British Columbia?
Yes.
Okay.
University of British Columbia.
University of British Columbia. She's an English and art major. Writing to explain and train has been a part of every position Mellissa Ruryk has held. Melissa is a senior technical communicator with experience in writing for technology, financial, oil and gas, and engineering clients. She's a past president of the Canada West Coast chapter of STC, and also, near and dear to our hearts, she's a past co-manager of the Instructional Design and Learning SIG, or Special Interest Group, I guess. She runs her own freelance technical communication business, so she's her own boss, and she earned her foundation certification in technical communication in the spring of 2 years ago, 2019. Melissa has maintained a strong interest in plain language principles, editing, and instructional design in our connected and on-demand world. Melissa finds the logical and intuitive sides of her brain engaged as she uses the knowledge of plain language principles and design to write, edit, instruct, and produce highly usable documentation in the form of user guides, online help.
Oh my God.
Quick references.
Just keep going on and on and on. That's enough.
Policy and procedure manuals. Hang on, there's more. Proposals and reports, and now blogs, right, Melissa?
Yeah, I write blogs.
Yep. Her
blog content.
Toolbox includes Microsoft Word, which is why we're here, Madcap Flare and Atlassian Confluence. Mastered over a career that includes employment with the larger and smaller companies, and her favorite, short-term freelancing. So, you got a lot to live up to there, Melissa, but we're really excited about this. And the other thing I want to just go ahead and announce at the top of this, Melissa has so much to say about Word that this is just part one of what could be a 5-part series, right, Melissa?
Maybe 3 at any rate.
So yeah, this is part one, getting Word to show some love. And I know that it's Zoom, but let's go ahead and put our hands together. I think you got a reactions button there for Mellissa Ruryk.
Thank you, Vicki. I certainly don't need to spend any time on this slide because I have given Vicki the longest bio ever. I'm sorry. I just want to say that you are going to get a link to the presentation and a resources list, plus a special bonus, a cheat sheet of keyboard shortcuts for Word on a PC. And I do have a lot to talk about, I'm afraid. So we're going to gather up your questions. There might be some time at the end of the meeting, and there's certainly time after the hour if anybody wants to stick around. But we're going to gather up any questions, and I will send you an email afterwards and make sure that you have answers to your questions. The last slide of the presentation has my contact information, and you're welcome to contact me anytime. I just can't guarantee that I'll be able to answer your questions, but I'll try. So that you know about me, who are you? I am guessing that you probably use Word. You might think you're good at it. You probably are, but there's more. You might be a person that uses Word because it's the only thing that's around. You could be one of the people that Word scares the poop out of you. You're never quite sure what it's going to do next. Or you might use Word a lot, but you suspect there's got to be an easier way, and there probably is. So I want to empower you, like these people on the slide here, to have questions and start to crawl and learn to walk, and then speed off to fly off with the answers to accomplish miracles. Out of the box. Did I miss a slide? Sorry. Yes, I did. Sorry, my machine isn't working. So these are some of the things that I plan to cover today. you don't have to be an expert to understand this presentation, but it's not really for novices either. I do assume that you have a certain understanding of Word. But I am positive that everybody here in attendance or watching the recording will walk away with at least one thing they didn't know that Word could do. And as we mentioned, I'm planning on offering another couple of sessions on templates and on numbering. But I do have to admit that I do talk exclusively to PC users. I don't know anything about a Mac. And so you can always look it up on Google. I know that the answers are out there. So I'm going to cover off those things. The first part of the slideshow and presentation is about setting you up for success. Word is set up for the average user, but we technical writers are anything but average. Microsoft thinks that you want to use Word in a certain way, and we know that Microsoft is often wrong. So I'm going to show you some adjustments that I think are imperative. If you don't like working with the codes, words codes showing, the ones that are called non-printing characters, you can accidentally type over or delete information that is actually a field or a bookmark. Now, I can't work without seeing the codes. They tell me what Word thinks it's doing. I would suggest you try to overcome your distaste for them, at least when you're writing. I know that they do get in the way of editing sometimes. So there's a way that you can see when content is a field or a bookmark while hiding the rest of those ugly codes. Make fields appear with a shaded background and bookmarks with light gray square brackets. And where you find this setting is under File, you go to Options to the Advanced section, and then tick off Show Bookmarks and always display field shading. And what that does is, that thing's out of the way. There we go. Square brackets show you where a bookmark is, and all fields, such as the page number at the bottom here, they will then show up with a gray background. And a little tip as we go along, update all fields in your document at once. Press Control A, which is select all, and then press F9, which is update fields. And everything in your document will update at once. It's very handy. Another thing that I think you should display is, which you look in the, you can find it in the display under advanced options, is always show these particular formatting marks on the screen. One of them is hidden text, and one of them is object anchors. I'm gonna go to the, yes. So here is hidden text. It appears underlined with faint green dots. And it's a little bit harder to see, I think, than the blue highlighting of a grammar mistake or the red squiggles of a spelling mistake. What I do is I've created a style for hidden text and that has a distinctive text color plus the hidden text attribute. So that makes it easier for me to see. And when I apply that style, it turns on the hidden text, changes the font color at the same time. And then I'm not in danger of accidentally deleting hidden text. Hidden text is a pretty cool way to write yourself notes about why you did things a certain way in a given document, or to give instructions to another user or editor of the document. Most people won't have that setting on, so they won't actually be able to see the hidden text unless they think of turning on all the codes. Anchors, object anchors. Anchor is something that is connected to an image or a graphic object that's in your document. They only appear when you set your text wrap for an image to anything except inline with text. A lot of people don't understand that there are two layers in Word, a text layer and an image layer or an object layer. And so when your image is inline with text, it stays on the text layer and it won't move unless you move it. Okay. If you set it to wrap tight or wrap through or in front of text, behind text, that kind of thing, you can then set that the anchor is attached to the paragraph where your cursor was when you said insert image. And anchors are attached to the paragraph on the text layer. So moving or deleting that image, that paragraph affects the image. And where you find this is you select the image and right click, select more layout options. In the position tab, look in the lower left corner. So if you think that your images are wandering around your document without you, they might be. It depends on whether you've set the text wrap with inline with text or not. It's a best practice to leave them in line with text if you can. It's not always possible to do that, depending on what you want your layout to look like. Okay, on to all about tabs. Using tab to reposition text betrays you and it never aligns correctly. So if someone knows how to use Word properly and they see this kind of formatting, they know immediately that the person who typed this does not know how to use Word. I'm going to show you how to set tabs quickly using the ruler. You can set them very quickly. I just don't know that there. I have a couple of demos set up in here. So you go to the view menu, show, and say, put the ruler on. And you can do all sorts of things with that ruler. If your cursor is double-ended, you're working with the margins. The solid up and down arrows at either end are margin releases. And by clicking over on the tabs, the little spot right here, it cycles through these types of tab types. One of the most important things to note is that your tab is set where your cursor is. Tab information, all style information is included in the pilcrow in the paragraph mark. And so if you're trying to work with tabs and all of a sudden everything disappears off the ruler, it's probably because your cursor's in the wrong spot. Get back to the line that where you set the tab and the tab will be there, believe me. And of course, the different kinds of tabs work differently depending on which tab setting they are. That's why there's different ones. A center aligned tab means that the text spreads out on either side of that alignment mark. So you click on the ruler to set a tab. In order to delete a tab, you just drag it off the ruler. And sometimes what happens is you set a tab when you're trying to drag it off. So you drag that one off and then you drag off the one that you were actually trying to drag off. Okay. Now there are default tab stops set and they don't show on the ruler, but they're the reason why you see a dozen tab marks, because if you're just hitting tab, you're going to the default tab stops. They're set every half inch. They can also be changed. You can use this dialog box to set tab positions, but you need to be much better at math than I am. I prefer the ruler because I don't need to know numbers. Okay, and also, as I said before, you can't guarantee that you're going to align with the right-hand margin if you do it this way. Next. There's another type of tab in Word that doesn't show up on the ruler either, and it's called an alignment tab and can only be set in a header or a footer. It's such a huge improvement. You used to have to edit each header when you changed the size, the page size or orientation of a page. This new feature allows you to insert tabs relative to the margin or to an indent setting that you've set. So now when your page size or orientation changes, content in the header appears like in this case, I've set it 1/2 inch in from the right-hand margin or left-hand margin. Nope, right-hand margin. The other thing I don't know my numbers and I don't know left and right. So you'll just have to bear with me. But you don't have to edit the header now. You just set your alignment tab using this command in the header and footer dialog section of the margin, a section of the ribbon, and you don't need to intervene anymore, which is kind of cool. Now I want you to learn to love the navigation pane. We used to have to work with the outline view and the go-to tab on the find and replace dialog. They both still work, but there is a much better alternative. Now you can access the navigation pane from the view menu, or you can customize your quick access toolbar to let you turn it on and off quickly, which is what I've done. You will end up, you'll note that there's 3 different settings on 3 different tabs. There we go. Headings, which gives you a list of headings, but you can also see your document. You can also see if there's any images there. Whereas on the outline view, everything, there's big gaps. There's funny, different kinds of icons and stuff. So we have the headings and you can click on the headings. My animation isn't working right. Here we go. You can click on those headings and drag them around. You can also see a list of all your pages and a results of a search. Let me carry on. So when you're in the headings tab of the navigation pane, you can drag whole sections around. You can collapse sections. Even non-contiguous ones, you can push and pull them around. You can promote and demote. This is frustrating. No, sorry. I did practice, honest, I did. If you right click, you can see that you can promote, demote, add new headings before or after, and you'll be able to type them right in what the heading is. This is something I found out only when I was creating this presentation, is that you can actually print heading and content of any given section of your document. Not section in terms of word sections, but anything that you click on here. If I clicked on stone safety and said print, I would get the introduction as well as everything else. That is very easy, makes things very, very easy. The Pages tab shows you thumbnails of your document, similar to what you see in a PDF or a PowerPoint, where you can see the slides down the side. I use it to assess whether white space has been used well throughout a document, or if the reader is facing a wall of text that they have to wade through. The size of those thumbnails is fixed, but you can spread the navigation pane out to see 3 at a time, or make it narrow to see only 1 at a time. That's kind of handy. The results tab on the navigation pane is super duper easy. It's got these up and down, so you can flip, you can cycle through all these occurrences in your document very, very quickly. Pretty much like hitting next, but it also gives you, because you've got your document right here, you can really get a sense of where you are in the document while you're doing it. It also gives you a count of the results, which is pretty handy. And there we go. There are options, just like on the Find Replace tab, to match the case. An incremental find is when you're typing the word rock hounds. As you're typing, Word will go off and find the matching content. So I would type rock, I would get a list of all the rock text in the document. And then as I continue, it narrows down the list to the point where I only have rockhounds showing. And the other cool thing is that you can search very quickly for tables, graphics, equations, footnotes. So you can cycle through. This is another way to get to see the comments in a document, going from one comment to the next so that you can make sure that you've addressed all the concerns that the editor had. I like this because I can never remember where the go-to tab is found. And having the page navigation now on my quick access toolbar, I find it really useful. And speaking of which, we're going to customize your status bar and the quick access toolbar. If you right click the status bar at the bottom of your window in Word, you display a list of options. This is just a little bit of the list. There's a whole screen full. And I've highlighted the ones that I like to use. This is mine. So I have the two different page counts, the actual number of pages in the document, what page I'm on, and also what the page number is of the section that I'm in, plus the section number here. This word count gives you the count for the entire document, or if you have a selection pre-selected, it'll give you the word count for that. You don't have to go into the language and set language, or yeah, it's in the review menu, and you have to, this is just a really quick way to find a word count. The X on top of the book means that I have some editing changes, and I can open the editor very quickly if I double click that. Here's my favorite new addition, which is track changes off and on. I edit a lot of student papers, so I keep this on and off all the time, depending on what I'm doing in their documents that I want to show them how to do different things. But you can set your own customizations from all the ones that are listed there. And then there is the quick access toolbar. You can pin it above or below the ribbon. And to match that track changes on or off, I've added display for review to my toolbar. And that is it gives you the ability to switch between looking at everything. There we go. The all markup, simple markup, no markup, or the original. So that's pretty handy. I've put another couple things on my quick access toolbar, things that I use frequently, like the navigation pane. And moving on to autocorrect. Whoops. Oh no. Can you hang on for just a second? Because I just, yes.
We love to hate it.
I just did. Exactly. Exactly. But you can set things up. There's an awful lot of customizations. This is how you get to it. You can set up exceptions. That's one thing that I've learned recently. So these are things I want IDs to always show up as capital ID with a little S. There's things like you could set things up so that some words are always checked regardless of whether they are spelled correctly or not. For instance, the word pubic or manger, those are words that I will frequently type and they get missed because they are valid words, but I want to see them all the time to make sure I didn't really mean to say manager or public. And down here in the settings, you can also set whether or not you want these exceptions or these rules to affect only the document that you're in or all new documents. Another thing I'd like to point out is that Word's grammar checker has really hugely been improved. And you can make all sorts of settings that you want it to look for. And then, as I said, you can click that little editor book at the bottom to quickly open the editor or press F7. And behind there also, I believe, most people will be familiar with the reading ease score, the flesh test. And that is accessible after you run a spell check. It will pop up with the stats on your document. This is where you can add. We've just seen a demo of this. Come on, next. Nope, we already saw that. Okay. Now, I went more than a year thinking Word had taken away the ability to add a correction while spell checking, but it turns out it was just hiding. When you're spell checking, you're going to be presented with some choices, and if one of them is the correct one, then click on that right arrow, and there's Add to AUTOCORRECT. It's right there. They just hit it on us. But notice also that you can get to the AUTOCORRECT dialog through this little pop-up menu, which is what I showed you on the last slide. Word, in its wonder of wonders, is very good at adding 10 different ways to get to different places, which makes it really hard to remember all the different ways. But it can be really handy. So now I do an awful lot of editing of other people's documents, that people that don't know Word, and that's fine. But I'm going to share some of my strategies for working with those. Find and replace is one of them. It's not limited to just words. Also, if you're going to make a wholesale change like the next couple ones that I talk about, I would suggest turning off track changes, because of course track change doesn't actually delete anything from your document. So one thing I always do is search for 2 spaces and replace it with 1 space. And because you're replacing 2 of something with 1, sometimes you end up with an odd number. So you have to keep repeating that until you get told that that Word didn't replace anything. Normally this button here says more. When you click it, then you get to see these things. Some of them are going to be familiar from looking at the Find dialog in the navigation pane. And another thing I will do is sometimes I use that to correct myself. Like before I hand off a paper to somebody or hand off a document, I will run the 2-for-1 replacing spaces, find and replace, simply because I don't want them to know that my fingers sometimes still hit the space bar twice in between sentences. This one is very good for getting rid of with people who don't know how to set before and after spacing in a style. And so they always hit 2 paragraph marks. They always hit enter twice between paragraphs. So if you run this, you'll get rid of those. Again, you have to run them over and over again until you get 0. Usually it only takes 1 or 2 runs through. This is the caret above shift 6, or sorry, above the 6, the shift. And P stands for paragraph, T is used for tab, L, you can read those. Those are hiding in the special tab, and I'll show you that. She said, there we go. So you can replace any of these things. Find them and then replace them. And I'm just going to pop back here, I think, to show you that there's also a format button here, because you can search for different formats. You want to get rid of all the highlighting in your document, go into format, and that's where you'll be able to flag highlighting. And make sure that when you're replacing, that you only use lowercase p's, okay, for the paragraph break or the pilcrow, paragraph mark or pilcrow. Doing caret capital P doesn't do anything. And also one more point is, if you have enabled using wildcards, then you're going to get a different list here, because other things apply when you're using wildcards. And that's not a topic I'm going to talk about in this session. Now I've got a document. I've fixed those 2 little things of extra spaces and extra paragraph returns. Now I want to apply styles. Now, if I have a huge document, if I have a little document and it doesn't have very many images, I basically select the whole thing, copy it over Notepad, and bring it back in. And what that does is it strips all the formatting from the original document. One thing I do in the instructions here is make sure that I don't take the very last pilcrow in the document with me when I'm doing that. And it's that last pilcrow has a lot of information on formatting in your document. And if anything's going to get corrupt, it'll be in that last paragraph mark. So don't take that with you, because you might be copying issues from one document to another. If the document is larger and it has lots of images in it, then I don't want to lose those images, which I do if I paste it into Notebook. So what I'll do is work with the styles and search and replace for one style and change it all to something else. Now, I always work with body text style. I don't like using normal, because someone else can come along and wreck all my formatting if they are using normal and make a change to normal. So if they make a change to the style and I'm sorry, somebody's making noise in my background and it's totally distracted me. If they make a change to normal, that change can flow through to all the styles that are based on normal. So I don't base any styles on normal. I base them on no style. And I always use body text style so that I know what I'm working with. Then I reapply heading styles where appropriate. I have 2 monitors. I have one that is set up like a portrait style, so I can see a page with its header and footer all in one. It's 21 inches big. It's huge. And that helps me because I'm old and like to see things big now. And then I have the laptop so that I can work with the page. I can have lots of sidebars for styles and navigation pane and everything. Got lots more room on my laptop horizontally. And then what I'll do is I'll keep the original on my portrait monitor and go through and reapply all the heading styles to make it match. I have an image format that I set up, and certain table styles. I add captions. And because one of the things I've done probably right at the beginning is to search and replace all the section breaks in the document, so I'm only dealing with one big section while I'm doing this, then I'll go back at the end and configure section breaks before I add headers and footers. Always do your section breaks before headers and footers, and always work from the front of your document to the back. Once you've done these kinds of things, you can regenerate your table of contents and carry on. So, one of the things I come across every so often is something like this, where people have actually manually typed in a list instead of using Word's numbering system. And truthfully, sometimes you have to do that. But of course, I'm not going to let anything out of my hands where it's got manual numbering in it. So I'm going to show you a quick way to select text vertically. We all know how to select text horizontally, but few people know how to do this. So this is kind of fun. If my little screen demo is going to work. So I wanted to show you that each line has a period followed by 2 spaces, which is nice, because that means I'm going to be able to search and replace 2 spaces, or sorry, a period followed by 2 spaces, and replace that with a tab, the caret T. So now I've got a tab setting there, which means that I can set a tab on my menu, on my ruler, which gives me some more room. Then I place my cursor there and I drag off to the right and up and hit delete, and they're all gone. All that stuff. Instead of having to land on each line and press delete until everything goes away, and sometimes take too much away and have to retype it, this works way quicker. That's kind of fun. Now in here's some content that was reformatted, like the content was, the formatting was stripped from it. And I can tell this was supposed to be a table And now I've got this huge long list of content, and I want to quickly convert it back to a table. So I select it, and you go into the insert menu. Let's just click back here for a second. It's the insert menu. You go to table, and under that is convert text to table. And that's the result. After you've set the number of columns that you want, it automatically splits it at the paragraph mark if that's what you left it set at. And it's done. But you could have the opposite. Oh, no, I was going to say this too, is sometimes it's easier when I'm not when I'm editing, when I'm actually developing content. It's quicker for me to type out all the contents of a table and then turn it into a table after. So I just do it with tabs. I don't bother setting proper tabs because I'm not going to leave it like this. I tell Word the same thing. I go into insert, convert text to table. Word actually has this defaulted. It knows it counted the number of tabs. So it suggests that I want 4 columns and that number of rows. And I specify, okay, split it up at the tabs, press OK, and I get this plain Jane table that I can then apply my table style to. So it works both ways, but sometimes you have the opposite. You get a table of content or maybe just a column, but you want it to be, for instance, a list of email addresses that you have to have in a certain format so that you can paste it into Outlook. So you can select the table, click where you want it split at, and say OK, and it will produce this kind of an output. The only thing I just have to fess up that this needed one more step, which was a search and replace, because you can't put semicolon and a space in here. You can only put one character in there. So I did have to run a search and replace on the paragraph saying, look for a semicolon and replace it with semicolon and a space. Okay, now this I found people have a little bit of confusion about what the style gallery is versus the style pane. A style gallery is a shortcut to a subset of styles. If you want to see the whole list of styles, you click the disclosure arrow at the bottom right of the style gallery, as shown there. And this is Word we're talking about, so there's a number of different ways to look at things. Come on, animation, work. There we go. Now the styles dialog that you open by clicking that down arrow has some options as to how the styles will show up in the style pane. So you can select which styles to show and in what order they show up in. And you can set that as a default so that all new documents based on the template that you're using will have that. And these 3 buttons at the bottom of the style pane give you options to create a new style or to look at style formatting that's there, style inspector, and or to open the managed styles dialog box, which we'll cover. Yes, the that arrow thingy is called the disclosure triangle, or can be called the disclosure triangle. That's what I call it, if I can remember what it is. If you were to click on the style inspector, this dialog box that's right there is the style inspector. So this dialog box pops up and it tells you the paragraph formatting and any text level formatting that's been applied. If you click on this button, which is reveal formatting, then you get absolutely everything that is associated with the text that you've selected, which can help you troubleshoot. If you click on manage styles, you get a fairly complicated dialog box, and I'm just going to show you one little bit of the recommend tab which is that this is where you can set a priority value on a specific style. And by assigning a value, you can either, you can sort it, or you can get rid of it, or you can make it show up at the top, depending on how you have things sorted. So it sort of works together. But it's helpful because that sort is what Word uses to recommend things in, but it also tells you which headings are going to show up and in what order up here in your style gallery. So if you're always applying one specific text, or one specific style, I'm sorry, then you can make it show up higher on this list, and then it's available to you on your styles in your style gallery. You might know that there's a style you want to apply, but it doesn't show up in the style gallery or the style pane because of the option settings that you set. So then you can use, let's click on this. Yes, you can cycle through these choices, but you can also display all of them that are in the style gallery. And if you can't find it, you get down here to apply style. And that apply styles dialog is a little teeny weeny box that will pop up. And you can type over the style name. And it pops up, it will autocomplete your style name if it exists, or you can look for it in the list by using the drop-down list. Then you apply, automatically changes according to your settings in your style. And here's one more way to get to the styles pane. When you click that, the whole styles pane will open up. So did you notice that there was this strip formatting? That's a quick way to take everything off of the style and just get you back to plain old normal text. Now, modifying styles, there's a lot. I could do a whole presentation just on playing with styles. So I'm just going to point out a couple of things. It will be covered in more depth in my templates webinar. So you can set a style based on, so I'm talking about heading 2 here. I base it on heading 1. And I also set a style for a following paragraph. That doesn't work when you're editing, when there's content that's there. But when you're creating content, after I type a heading 2 and apply that style, hit enter, I automatically get a body text formatted paragraph. So I don't have to apply that style all the time. And you can memorize these kinds of things in the templates if you click the right button when you've opened the modify style button. Okay. And so down here is, as I was promising you, how to quickly create a style shortcut. And that's where you set it. So you're in the modify style window, and you click format, and that's where you set the shortcut key. And what that is you go into this field, press a new shortcut key. It will show you what it's currently assigned to. I don't use that shortcut to get to the edit replace because I use the one on the navigation pane. So I can reassign the Control H2 shortcut to this. And when I assign it, it moves over to this other window. Other text, come on, there we go. And again, pay attention to everything on the window so that you know whether you are saving this in your current template or if you're saving it in your normal.x file, which is your normal template. I've set up shortcuts for all the main styles that I use because it's just quicker to be able to use a keyboard shortcut. As my friend Sasha knows, she likes to also have lots of shortcuts set up. So we are going to learn a little bit more about word language and the formatting marks. These are the hidden codes. Codes is a really old term left over from WordPerfect days. And so people call them the hidden characters, the non-printing characters, the formatting marks. Those are all adequate ways. And the pilcrow here, the paragraph mark, is also called the backwards P, the paragraph mark, or in old WordPerfect days, we called it a hard return. And we called the line feed a soft return. I try to remember to call it a paragraph mark or pilcrow. One of the most important things that you need to know about Word is that the pilcrow controls the formatting paragraph formatting of the paragraph before it. And in the same way, each section break controls the section formatting of the section before it. So when you delete a section break, you're deleting the section formatting of the section before the break. And then it automatically adopts the section formatting of the section after the break. And if you don't know about sections, you need to do a little bit of research, because that's how you can change formatting inside of a document. Like to go from a portrait page to a landscape page, you have to insert a section. There is one exception to the pilcrow and the section break, and that is the last section of the document. We talked about this earlier, that the formatting for the last section and some of the formatting for your entire document is set in the last paragraph mark. And you can't delete that last pilcrow in the document, but you can cut everything out of the document except it and paste that into a new document. And a little bit more on theory here is that all headers and footers are associated with sections. Lots of people tell me that they have problems with headers and footers. You have to understand that they come in pairs. There's no header without a footer. But either one of them or both of them could be blank, like they might not have any content in them. So it looks like there's no section header there, but there is. And every time you create a new section, you're creating a new header. One of the reasons why I say add section breaks from the front to the back of the document is because that lets you take advantage of the same as previous setting for headers and footers. But you do need to understand that previous, when you say same as previous, you're not saying same as the last header. You're saying set as the previous same type of header or footer. So if you're in a first page header and you say set as previous, you're saying connect this to the previous first page header. If you're in an odd page footer, for instance, and you say make it same as previous, you're not saying make it the same as the last footer I have. Like if I page back, you are actually saying make it the same as the previous odd page footer. And that one is a pretty big concept. It should help you. Now, troubleshooting should be quite a bit easier that you've learned some of these techniques and ways to read Word. So if you ever get a list that looks like this, where the bullet point is larger or it's a different color, if you look at the pilcrows, it's going to tell you exactly what's going on. Someone here changed the size of the font after this, something got deleted, and you're left with that paragraph mark that's affecting the size of the bullet. When you select this pilcrow and change the font to match everything else, it'll go correct. It'll go back to normal. Ditto here, someone probably had some question mark about that particular, whether peppers belonged in this list of fruits. And so they had red font and the comment got deleted, but the pilcrow did not. And so that affects, because this is a paragraph. Anything that you see with a paragraph mark is considered to be a paragraph to Word. In the FIXIT section, sometimes you'll get documents where references have been deleted. And if you probably know that you can only set either reference to a text or reference to a heading, reference to a numbered item, and then you have to set a separate one for the page number. So I would recommend, I've learned not to cross-reference both the heading title and the page number. the heading name, the word, whatever I'm referencing is far less likely to change than the page number. So I'm going to cross-reference the page number at all times. And that way, if the heading changes, I know that I've probably referred to it someplace. So I'll do a find and replace to make sure I get all those occurrences of the heading. I would recommend that you only do one of the two headings via AutoXref. And another issue I see sometimes is people obeying the old edict that you put captions underneath a figure and over top of a table. The problem with in our online world, when you click a cross-reference to a caption, Word or just about anything will reposition it so that the very first thing you see on a computer screen is the caption that you were hyperlinked to. And what that means is the user sometimes has to scroll up in order to see the entire image. If you put all your captions at the top of your images and tables and anything, put your captions at the top, and then when Word repositions the cursor, it will reposition that at the top of the window and your image will be below. Your user will not have to scroll. Oh, come on, there we go. So here's my shameless plug. We're actually kind of done here. If you're interested in practicing these tips and creating your own how to use Word manual with these tips and other things, take a course called TCOM 240 it's an adult ed program at the Simon Fraser University. It's a course that's part of their technical communication certificate. They are based on, all the courses are based on the 9 core competencies of technical communication. And it ends up with a 3-month practicum project that gives you the ability to develop something you can put in your, all the courses actually produce something that you can put in your online portfolio. This link takes you to the description of the program, but that's also included on the next page, which is cursor troubles here. These are the references and resources. So of course, I don't expect you to read all of this or memorize it. I'll just point out the first couple 3. There's a guy on YouTube, used to work for Microsoft. Fabulous information, very easy to understand. Same with Alan Wyatt. You can sign up for a weekly email called Word Tips. Sign up on his site, but he's got just buckets of information there. Shauna Kelly, her advice was always spot on. She passed away in 2011. So the information on her site is very clear and very easy to understand, but it is not maintained. It doesn't go past, I believe, Word 2010. But there's some other great references there. And what are we doing for time? Look at that. Woohoo! That end. If you have any questions, call, email me. My phone number's there, my email address, and I would like to thank you very much for paying attention and having such a lively, distracting chat window that I got lost sometimes. Sorry about that. I hope I cleared up at least as many mysteries as I might have caused. But don't expect in-depth answers on numbering or template questions because I haven't finished writing those presentations yet. Stay tuned to the IDL SIG. They'll be announcing those. And I would like to also say thanks to Vicki for that wonderful introduction and for the IDL SIG for hosting me. I really appreciate this opportunity. I love sharing my knowledge about Word. Thanks.
You're clearly you've got some superpowers, and we have some superpower needs, that's for sure. I definitely liked, before I turn off the recording, I just want to get this into the recording. We had a very lively discussion in the chat. You will get a link to the chat. And I also kind of got some ideas for maybe future webinars. We have some people in the chat that have also got superpowers, not unlike Mellissa.
Mm-hmm.
And they may want a platform to share them with, and IDL can provide such a platform. And we look forward to your next presentation, Mellissa.
Thank you.
It was fantastic, especially there. And I don't know if you were watching the chat, but there was a couple of things like on the selecting vertical and the making the tables. Everybody was just like, "What? wizardry is this? So anyway,
That's great.
I'm going to go ahead and stop the recording. That way people can talk offline. We are so grateful to you, Melissa. You are generous and you are knowledgeable and you are a treasure to us. I just want
Thank
to
you
say
very
that.
much.